Well, hello everyone. My name is Selvi Alabranova. I am the social media head here at GMAT Club, and I am here to welcome you to our MBA application walkthrough series, which is a 6-week series covering applications to top 25 MBA programs. Every Thursday and Friday till September 15th, we will feature admissions experts and admissions teams going step by step through every aspect of the online application. Also, guys, feel free to subscribe to our channel right now to stay updated and support us in organizing more events. I will be your host, and in today's walkthrough, we are covering ISB. Together with me is Shruti, who is an admissions consultant at Goal ISB. Shruti has helped hundreds of people with their MBA applications, and it's awesome to have her here. But before we dive in, Shruti, it would be great for you to quickly introduce yourself as well to our YouTube audience.
Yeah. Hello, and thank you for joining us. So, again, we are catching up close to dinner time. Uh, something that we owe to you. And but again, thanks once again. I'm Shruti, and I am the head of consult. I am the head at Goal B. We work for applicants, especially Indian applicants applying to schools within India as well as abroad. And what we excel in is applications, essays, as well as interview preparation. So today we are discussing the ISB application. The deadline is pretty close, 10th of September. So I think it's a good time to look into what the application requires from you to fill in. And that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. And guys, feel free to ask your questions, and I will bring them up one by one. Yeah. Okay.
Shall we start?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Right. So the ISB application form is something that you'll have to fill in, and apart from the essays, you must always pay attention to the application form and take an ample time to fill in the application form. So this is the step number one. Now that it is almost 15 days for you to fill up the applications, you should start your applications and go on it slowly so that you have time to think on the things that you are adding here. So first and foremost, before starting the application, please go through the application instructions. It has some important takeaways from you apart from the general information. One is the codes for the school, where you need to send your the GMAT as well as your GRE test scores. And second information is about the specification of the photograph, which will go up in the end. So this is something that you will require. So do make sure that your photograph adheres to this particular qualification here. Then the next step is to go through the terms and conditions and then just mark this checkbox as done, so that this is one thing that you will need to do for this application form to be complete. Okay, so there are two friends over here who will be, constant reminders for what all needs to be updated. One is the application inspector, and second is the preview application button. So, application inspector looks something like this. You'll have a complete list of things that you need to do for completing the application form. Now, there are three things over here. One is one is marked in green, so that means we have completed these sections. These are the mandatory sections which have been completed. If a mandatory section has not been completed, it will be marked as incomplete. You need to go there and mark it as done. And there are some optional sections. So for the optional sections, you don't need to worry if you don't want to fill in those sections. It's absolutely okay. Let's start with the first section of the ISB application, which is about your details, your city and state where you are applying from. And one important aspect over here is that whether you are a reapplicant. So if you are reapplying through the ISB PGP and you've already previously applied in any year or maybe multiple years, if there are multiple applications, you need to mark these check boxes and also add the application reference number. So let's say you don't remember the application reference number, then it is a good idea to go back to ISB, write to them and help them trace that for you. If you are a YLP applicant who has applied previously in the YLP stage and not made it to ISB at that point in time, and you are now reapplying for PGP, then you will not be considered as a reapplicant, so you don't need to worry on that front. The second part of this application is your personal details. Add your passport or your Aadhaar card number. When you see this plus one mentioned here, you can add one of these. You don't need to add both, but still, it's good to add both. And then add your gender, date of birth, and these basic details once this is covered. So, one important part is that since it is a long application, it's a very lengthy form. Preview and save is something that this will be an option at all the windows. So, preview and save and continue. Tomorrow, when you are coming back to filling the application, you'll not be surprised that, oh, I had filled it in and now it has disappeared. So, these two buttons will save you that time and rework. Coming to the contact details, again, add the contact details, add your permanent address and your preferred mailing address. Once again, preview and save. This should be it for this section. And the other section, the next one is it is not a mandatory detail that you need to fill. That is about your family details. So you can very well skip to add about your father, your mother, or your spouse if applicable. Otherwise, in case you want to add their details, you can go into adding their name, the level of education that they have had, and the current status of their occupation. So if they are working, you need to add your father's employer designation, the email, and then contact details. If he's a retired professional, then he retired from which organization, at which designation, and the year that he retired. Again, the contact details. Similarly, you need to add the rest of the details. You can very well choose to skip this information as well. So preview and save and continue.
Interesting.
Okay.
I find it
The next
interesting how you can just skip like mentioning anyone in your family. But is there any advantage of adding the information?
Uh, we've not seen that being a big limitation. In case you are not comfortable in adding that and you feel that doesn't have any bearing to your application as such, it doesn't matter. That is why the
Makes,
school has also kept it optional. So there's no advantage as such.
makes sense. Okay.
But it's always good to disclose as much information as possible so that the school can decide what they find useful or not. So unless there's a very specific reason, you can go ahead and add that information as well.
Makes sense. Okay. And just wanted to mention quickly, Shruti, that one lucky attendee from the session will get a free essay review from Shruti herself. So, guys, stay tuned for the prize link in the comments. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So the next part of this application form is your GMAT or GRE score, something that you've been studying for since so many months and finally got that score and ready to put up your application. So first things first, this is the school code for ISB when you are submitting your GMAT score. You have two options, GMAT or GRE. In fact, actually, you can submit both the scores if you want to. If you have two scores and you want to submit both, you can go ahead and do that as well. You can apply through your unofficial test center scores. That means that at this point in time, when you're adding your scores, you might not have your AWA or IR scores. That is perfectly fine. And you need to leave your AWA section blank and add 0 in the IR score if you don't have one. So if the unofficial score is something that you're applying with, please make sure that you stick to these directions. The test date taken needs to be added here. So let's say you are planning now, we are on 25th of August, and you are planning to put up your application on 10th and writing the test on 6th of September. In that case, you will not be able to fill in this detail as of now because it will not let you add a date beyond the current date. So you need to write your test and come back over here and then add that detail. You will not be able to add this section of the application in advance. Similarly, for the GRE, you need to add your test, the date that you have taken the test on. If it is a date which is ahead of time from today, then you cannot add anything in this section right now. You need to come back to it after you have, submitted, after you have written the test finally. So add your GRE registration number. The email address that goes into the GRE and the GMAT section is the one which is attached to your GMAT and GRE account. So if you've used another email address for your GMAT account, then that is the email address that needs to come here because that is how your report will be identifiable. Again, if you're applying through your unofficial score on GRE, then you might not have your AWA scores on GRE as well. So you can just leave that part blank. You don't need to add anything over here. Plus, since you'll be filling this up after you have written the test, so you need to add a date as to when you have asked the GMAT or the ETS to send the official reports to ISB. So with this information, this section will be more or less complete.
Mm-hmm.
And
Someone
again,
did
we go
ask,
back to
if
yes.
ISB takes AW and IR scores into account.
IR scores, they have specifically said that they don't take into account. For AWA, also, I think it is not being taken up into account as of now. But it is
Mm,
best to look on the ISB website. But I do believe that the IR scores are definitely not taken into account.
gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Yes. So the next part of this application is your language proficiency. So for Indian applicants who have their medium of instruction during undergraduate study as English, nothing to be done over here. You just check English over here and add any other languages that you know in this particular section and then preview and save. Just in case this is not the case, then you would have to submit the IELTS or the TOEFL score. So IELTS and TOEFL score, again, you can submit both if you have both the scores. If you would like, ISB to have both the scores then. And the date that you have taken the test, if it is a date in the future when you will be writing the test, then you have to write the test and then come back to this section to upload the rest of the information. If it is the TOEFL score, again you can select out of the internet based test, the computer based test, or the paper based test, and then add the scores accordingly. And also you have to add the date when you have sent the scores to ISB. So when you've requested the ETS or the IELTS to send the report to ISB, that is the date that will come in this section. Otherwise, you
That's
can
interesting.
just preview and save, and that's it.
Gotcha. Do you get brownie points if you know a lot of languages?
It is good if you know a lot of languages. It does show that you are culturally very sensitized, and you are aware and you like to. And again, knowing a lot of languages has a very key benefit, that it shows that you are somebody who is very adaptable, who has that learning capability. It has a lot of other messages that it sends rather than just the languages alone, or maybe how you are using those languages.
Awesome. Okay.
It's a very important skill to have if you have that.
Very true. Very true, guys. And I know five, so I would agree.
It's very difficult to learn a new language, and it shows your mental capacity, your adaptability. You're putting in effort to learn new things. So a lot of things are just signaled from knowing a lot of languages.
Mm. Should I bring a little bit a question about GMAT related, if that's fine?
I can see if I can take it up.
I mean, we got a question of, will the order of name in the GMAT test and application cause any issue?
So if the order of name, that means I think your name must be, if it is PR, it might be RP on the other report, if I'm understanding your question correctly. It In case of the application and the GMAT test, it doesn't really matter. Your passport and the GMAT test and what you're filling in the application, all of that must be in sync. So if your passport, the name is now actually you're not able to write the GMAT test if that name is not in sync. But at some point in time, that order of name used to have a very huge implication. While just writing the GMAT test, people could not write the GMAT test just because of that dot not being there. Maybe if you're a Ravi dot and your passport doesn't have that dot, then you will not be able to write the test. But probably it doesn't make a lot of difference in the application and the GMAT test as such.
Makes
But with your
sense.
identification documents and all, you should make sure that everything is in sync. Maybe
Gotcha.
if things are really out of sync and you've faltered somewhere, just try and start a new application itself.
Gotcha. And we got a question about GMAT focus. So someone asked, is there any clarity on whether ISB will be accepting GMAT focus scores in round two?
I think they will be, since GMAT focus testing will start very soon, and
Yeah.
all the schools, as soon as GMAT gives them a go ahead, they would be
Mm.
accepting the GMAT focus edition scores.
It's only a matter of how fast can you prepare for the new test. Yeah. Okay.
It's more on the applicants. It's more of a new system that you have to adapt to. But maybe if you are
Right.
applying for the first time, it's something that you're doing for the first time. So,
Right. Okay. We can go to the next section.
okay. Yes, so the next section is about academic qualifications. So, three mandatory qualifications that you have to add over here, that is your class 10, class 12, and any of these, which is your undergraduate degree or the integrated program, that is the 5 year degree if you pursued that, or a professional education like the CA or the ICWA, because these are equivalent to an undergraduate degree. So, you can add any of these as applicable. So let's see how we can add the year 10 marks. So you need to select what board you have qualified from, name of the institution, the dates attended. One thing that people usually face a problem with is the adding their percentage of CGPA. So do you need to convert it to CGPA and then add it? You don't need to do anything. Just go with what is written on your mark sheet or transcript. And if you go through, the scales that the form allows, it does allow you a lot of options on CGP out of 4, out of 7, out of 8, or maybe a percentage out of 100. You can add any of these. Just stick to what it says on the mark sheet. You don't need to convert to add over here, because you will be anyways be attaching all those mark sheets. So that is what the school will correlate it to. So just make it easy for them and keep it straightforward. Okay, another information that you need to add is if there's any gap in education in within class 10. So up till class 10th, if there's any gap in education, you have a section to explain it over here. You don't need to write a separate essay for that. This explanation can come in here, or if there is a gap between any two courses. So maybe there are some circumstances where you have to take a break, and you need to explain that over here. That's about it for your grade 10 marks. And now coming to grade 12. Just a moment. Yeah, for grade 12, things are similar. You need to add the board, institution, and the dates attended, and then add about the percentage of CGPA that you have scored. Again, go with the mark sheet and the transcripts. Just go with the what it says as your final grades and add that. If it is a percentage, that is fine. If it is a CGPA, even that is good. And then you have space to explain any gaps. So if there is a gap in education within class 12, so that if there is a delay in your class 12, or if there is a gap between 10th and 12th, so these are two sections which you can choose to explain in if there is any such gap in that particular period of your academic
I
grades.
already got a question about high school grades. So someone asked, why does ISB care for high school grades at all? How do they evaluate this? And even our founder, BB, has asked something similar, saying, we do want to know about high school grades as well. I keep seeing people posting them in profile evaluations.
10th and high school grades are important because it shows a kind of a track record and how you have paid attention and how you have been as a student. Sometimes we do see that grades drop in bachelors, but then if I have had good grades in 10th and 12th, it's a saving grace. It does tell the school that okay, I was up there at that point in time, something happened. And when you are giving a reasonable explanation, that becomes something easier to digest. If I just look at that particular score, I see you as just one data point, and I don't have any other history to go with. And the only other number would be the GMAT score, which would again
Mm.
probably 5 or 6 years ahead of your previous degree. So the trend is helpful at times. So that is why uh, we do prefer having the high school grades as well. Even as applicants, it is a good thing that you are able to write your high school grades. Indians score a lot in their high school.
Yeah, BB said that, thanks. It is interesting that the US and EU schools completely ignore or don't care about anything related to pre-college.
And that's
So
true.
yeah.
The application forms, they don't even have a section where they do that. But yeah, I think it is more driven by the Indian system, and we have people paying a lot of attention. We have 10th boards, 12 boards. After that, we suddenly feel that okay, now it is college. Let me explore other things, and then grades go down. So
Mhm.
that trend is really helpful for applicants to show that yes, I was up there at that point in time.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. And yeah, someone did ask also, I'll just quickly bring this. How can we add CFA level one cleared?
Yeah. So Mahima, I was just coming to that.
Gotcha.
Uh, if you have a section called additional education, so that is where your CFA level one can go. Professional education as well is one section, but that is, if you have a complete degree. Otherwise, you can add it to your additional education since you have not completed all the levels.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah. So for the undergraduate degree, over here, this section is pretty simple. You have four options to choose from: a full time or a part time or a distance education or online learning. So Indian education system allows all of these. We have people coming from IGNOU degrees, from distance education degrees, where the degree is equally valid. So you can choose, what your university allowed, and accordingly start from there. One point to note here is that if you have been pursuing a degree alongside job, in that case it becomes slightly tricky as to how you will add your work experience along with this education section. There you
Mm-hmm.
need to choose, either you keep your degree as part time or you keep your work experience as part time. So keep one of these things as part time, and then you can claim the full time thing on your undergraduate studies. It is best to keep your bachelor's full time, even if it has been online or this. Then your work experience, the duration should not clash. In that case, then when you add your work experience, which was probably parallel to your undergraduate degree, add it as part-time work experience. Full-time work experience can only be counted after you have completed your bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
Another problem that you might face over here is if your university is or your institution is not visible here. If that is the case for the bachelor's degree, then you need to contact ISB and along with your transcripts and see that that is taken care of. It can be added up from there itself.
Makes
Apart
sense.
from
Okay.
that,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Is
Apart
this section over?
No, there's just two more things over here. One would be
Gotcha.
if there is any gap in education within your bachelor's education itself. So it is a 4 years degree, you completed it in 5 years or more or something like that. Then this is the place where you put in that explanation. Or if you have had a gap between your 12th and bachelor's education, which is something which is very common in India because people do write entrance tests multiple times. They do take a gap year. So if that is a gap year that you've taken, then you can put in that explanation over here. So this
And is this
was it about
explanation
this section.
mandatory?
I'm sorry. Please come again on the
Uh, I
question.
was yeah, I was saying, is the explanation mandatory?
Yes. If you are choosing that yes, there was a gap, then you need to put in an explanation. What is the
Gotcha.
explanation? Again, it depends on you and how you're putting up your application. So you can
Got it.
be as straightforward as possible.
Got it. Got it. Alrighty. I do have some questions regarding the undergraduate degree section. But before I ask that, guys, please like the video. Really, it helps the video reach to a much larger audience. And also subscribe to our channel while you're at it. Thanks a ton. And I'll bring up a few questions, Shruti. Um, Someone asked, my graduate result is 76.6%. So should I round it off to 77% since decimal use is not allowed in the form?
You can do that. That's not a problem. You'll anyways be putting up your mark sheets and transcripts. That should be fine.
Gotcha. And another question here was, with constant ACADS like 70% in 10th, 12th, and graduation, is this worth enough to apply?
Depends. There is one more point that we are missing here. That is your GMAT or your GRE score. So if you have a GMAT or a GRE score that goes into talking about your academic acumen, then go ahead and apply. Even if it is 70% in 10th, 12th, and grad, a lot also depends on your story. So we have worked with applicants from all the bandwidth across, and there have been people with different data points but very unique stories. So if you have a very unique story to talk about, then you should go ahead and apply. Don't just put it on numbers. Focus on everything. ISB and all the schools again and again, they do say, and we have seen it in action, they do look at the whole profile. Please go ahead and apply if you have a good story and a strong case to put forward.
Makes sense. Okay. We can jump to the next bit.
Yes. So the next bit is about additional education. So additional education would be important for people who've taken certification exams, or like the IT professionals, or maybe if you pursue Coursera courses or any other education which is probably not giving you CGPA. So if a CGPA is applicable, you can select that. Otherwise, you can just add your additional certifications over here. So this is one good area of showing that. So select out of these four options which applies at the certificate received. If you do not see the university here, then here you have this option of selecting other and adding the university and the mode as to how you have taken up this particular course. If it is an ongoing course, then you can also select under progress and add about when you are expected to complete the course over here. So go ahead and add all additional education that you have pursued in your career, and it is an important part of your application because it helps you show that you have been upskilling yourself. So you can add all that information in this additional education section. Yeah, so the next section is your employment details. For employment details, some things which are important. One is the part-time and the full-time employment qualification. So you need to decide, if you've had two parallel engagements, then you need to decide that which one do you want to keep as full-time or part-time. Ideally, this is a very rare case, but still, if it happens, then that is a decision you need to make. Otherwise, when you're adding your experiences here, then you should add it in the chronologically reverse order. So start with your most latest work experience first, and then go ahead with the rest of the application. So I have added some information. I can just share it with you. You have three options: full-time, part-time, and the CA articleship. So if you are a CA, the articleship goes into this section. And in case you're choosing full time, then you'll have a lot of options to add from, whether it is employed with another company. If you are an entrepreneur, choose self employed. If you are freelancing, so you don't qualify for any of these first two options, then choose this as well. Your internships during your undergrad or graduation degrees, or internships post your undergrad or graduation degrees. Similarly, tenures for traineeship. All of that will also come into this particular section itself. So over here, you need to add whether you are working in more than one organization. If yes, do give the name for that. And if it is self-employed, since this is a typical case for entrepreneurs, I've taken up two examples, one for self-employed and one for the full-time. So for the self-employed guys, they will get an option of whether your organization is family-owned. If that is the case, please do add that. Then the numbers about your work experience, and finally, you have space to talk about your job responsibilities and initiatives and achievements. Try and keep this with respect to the work experience that you're talking about. And you have five lines that you can add. Try and optimize the usage of words because you have only 100 characters per line. So this is something critical in your application. If there is a gap between your previous education and employment, or two consecutive employments, then you can add that explanation over here.
Gotcha.
Add your reporting manager's details, your HR manager details. A lot of times, one question is that whether you might not have your HR manager details if you are working in an MNC and a very large firm. At that point in time, you can add your company's official ID. You will get it on the company's website, and you can add those contact details in this particular section.
Mhm.
Another case, if you would like me to go about it, is the full-time employment. So this is the salaried employment that you have, and you just need to add your industry, employer activity, talk about your duration of employment, and then again add your job responsibilities, initiatives. One thing which is new in this section from the other one is the reason why you have left your job. So you can add a reason as to why you made a shift to the current one. And if there is a gap, go ahead and explain that gap over here itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is
I
an
do have
optional section. Yes, please.
I do have a question here. Someone asked, will adding online courses which may not be relevant to the current work profile be a disadvantage?
Hmm. So adding online courses is totally optional. The additional education section is, some place where you can talk about the kind of education or self improvement, things that you have done. If you think it doesn't add a lot of relevance, then don't add it. So it being a disadvantage, probably not. It is not going to have any bearing on your current work profile as such. It is an independent section. If you want to talk about the education that you have pursued, you can add it over here. That's it.
Gotcha. I have a few more questions here as well. Someone asked, I don't have experience letter from my first company, just have my last payslip. Does this suffice to prove about work experience?
Yes. So for your work experience, if you will go to the last section, the uploads that you have to do for the ISP application, especially, you just need to add your, I think, last three payslips. So just need
Mhm.
to scan those and add those. That is enough. In case you don't even have that, you can get your IT return that will also mention all those details. So see what
Okay.
experience letter is not mandatory. So don't worry on that.
Mm. More questions here. Can we mention internships as part of gap year?
You have areas of adding internships, so the employment section did give you those options, so you can add that. And in case you are asking if you can add it in the explanation section, yes, definitely you can add that.
Gotcha. Okay. And do we need to attach appointment letters and relieving letters too?
No, you just need to attach your pay slips. So we'll come to that section. Just go with what is mandatory. In case there is some explanation that is required, or maybe sometimes the school does require additional documents, they will come back to you.
Mm. If we have an MSME family business, should we put it as full time or part time? If we add it as full time, what would be the HR details?
If you're working in it full time, then you should add it as full time.
Mm-hmm.
Why put it as part time? So if you are so you need to decide, as to what is your involvement in the business. I'm assuming this is the only thing that you're working on and not working on a job parallelly, but then you need to qualify it accordingly. And if you do add it as full time, then you would have a designated HR in your organization. In case that is not available, then probably you can add a partner or somebody who you are reporting to as a senior.
Gotcha. Okay. Shruti, I want to make sure that you have enough time to cover the rest of the section. So I'll bring up some of the other questions later on. So yeah, let's go to the next section.
Yes, so the next section is this is an optional section. If you just go to the application inspector, you can see that awards and activities is an optional section. So don't worry if you don't have anything to talk about. But if you do, this is a good place to talk about one, awards, and second, your extracurricular activities. So in terms of awards, you can add things from your academic or professional scenario, sports, patents, fine arts, or social service. In fact, any other thing also, if you want to discuss with the school. The only thing is that you have to prioritize. You have only options to add five things in the award section. So add that. Talk about the level of participation. Again, there are so many options to choose from in the level of participation. It will help you qualify and distinguish yourself as to how equipped you are on that particular skill. Let's say it is a national or an international competition that you won, and then you can add details of awards. You have around 100 characters, so that's quite some space to talk about why you received that award and why it is important. Similarly, you also have the extracurricular participation section. Add the name of the activity, duration of your participation. So it gives us an idea of how, what has been your level of participation as well, what has been the duration, whether it has been just an offhand activity or you have been continually into it. At the level of participation, and then the designation held. So again, 100 characters space is enough for you to describe what was your participation in the extracurricular activities or what motivated you, etc., you can use this section for that. So ISB application requires two essays which are mandatory. The third essay is optional, and if you would have checked the reapplicant area in the beginning of the application, then you would see another option over here, that is the reapplicant essay. So the essays of course, you've been working on your essays. It is always good to work on your essays on a separate Word file so that you don't misplace just because of not having saved it over here. So work on a separate Word file, and when you are sure of what you are submitting to the school, you can come and copy paste here or type it out over here. You have a very nice word count meter which will tell you when you are exceeding the word limit. It will not allow you to add more than 400 words. So the first essay is about your strengths and weaknesses. The second essay is about your success and failure. And the third essay is about this is the optional essay, and is about your goals and how you plan to use ISB and how it will benefit you professionally. The fourth essay that reapplicants would have is a 200 words essay where they need to talk about how their profile has bettered since the last time they had applied to ISB. So these are the four things that you have to fill in this. There is a word limit to it. You will not be able to add anything extra. So work on your essays and then come to this part of the application.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, we
In
have,
case you want to.
but then I also want to make sure we have some time to like finish
Ah,
all of the sections. Yeah.
I think we have just three more important sections to cover. Rest would be the generic ones. So this is the
Correct.
recommendation section. You need only one recommendation for ISB. When you are planning to add your recommender, you need to add their contact details, their organization designation, and the relationship with the applicant. So how does your recommender identify with you? So there are a lot of options to choose from. Most of the times it is either your supervisor, direct supervisor, somebody who you're reporting to, or let's say a previous supervisor. But there are many other options in case you are choosing anybody else, or if you're choosing the others option, then you need to specify what the relationship is. Else probably this list will suffice from the drop down menu. You need to give their contact details and review and save. Over here you need to select the send mail to recommender and continue. This is when your recommender will get the email. What happens is that when you are sending your recommenders the email, it might get delayed or it might be blocked by their official system. So do always confirm back with your recommenders if they have received the email. Half an hour of a duration or maybe a day's duration is more than enough. So just check back with them. Otherwise you probably need to resend it from here. Try that. If that doesn't work, you can ask them to check their spam, the email spam box, or the bulk for email folder that they have. If that doesn't also work, please do reach out to the admissions team at ISB to see what can be a good workaround. There are some organizations where the email, the recommendation email does not land in their inbox, and that might become a problem for you. So two recommendations here from my end: start early with the recommenders process so that you have time to navigate all these challenges if you face them. Second is, if check back with your recommenders on time so that you can take action in a timely manner. Just doing it 2 days before submission does not really help your application.
Gotcha. Also, guys, we made sure we added the prize link for a free ISB essay review from Shruti. The link is already mentioned in the live chat, so feel free to click on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think the last section where you would have to do a lot of work is the rest of them are like uploads and checkboxes. We'll come to those as well. But the last section where you'll have to do some more work will be the scholarship section. So if you're applying for a scholarship at ISB, so two things to note here. One is that there is a merit linked tuition waiver which will be offered to all the students who are applying. You don't need to write any additional essays. You don't need to do anything in the application. Everybody will be considered for that. And in case you are applying for a tuition waiver, then according to the eligibility criteria mentioned over here, you can select which ones you want to apply to. The scholarship criteria are given out here. Please do see that all the proofs are also available with you, because selecting one and not submitting a proof will not probably be a good thing to do, and it will actually not support your application as well. There would be essays required. So if you are planning to write on apply for scholarships, and then you will need to check on the essays and also plan those essays alongside the rest of the essays for the application. Don't rush in to fill in these 200 words essays in the end. Finally, probably it will not support your application a lot. So spend enough time on these essays as well to justify what you're planning to communicate here. So you can just select these options, and according to the option selected, you will have to submit the essays. So the essays mostly ask you about what are the, how do you qualify and why should you be awarded that particular, how do you qualify under that particular scholarship criteria. So you can go ahead and write that essay, but do it ahead of time. Plus, if you are applying for a scholarship, you do need to add your family details over here. You need to add about your parents and what is the status in terms of whether they are working and what are their uh, income levels as well. You will also need to attach the proof of these incomes towards the end of the application in the upload document section if you are going in for these scholarships. This was the most tricky part of the application. Look through all of these questions for the declaration part as well. These questions do do pertain to being having being involved in any academic probation or any other things which the school should know about, like criminal proceedings or civil proceedings or something. So just go ahead and write any explanation if it warrants over here. Otherwise, you can just go ahead with the next one. Add your uploads. Only PDF files can be uploaded. So don't take pictures and upload over here. Only PDF files can be uploaded in the ISB section. And the only mandatory uploads are your passport size photograph, your Aadhaar or your passport, GMAT, GRE score report, whichever you are submitting, your transcripts from 10th, 12th, and bachelor's, and your proof of income for self. These are the only mandatory documents. If you are applying for a scholarship, then you need to apply, then you need to add the proof of income for the rest of the family members as well.
Mm, gotcha. Okay. Should I start
Yes,
taking up
Gurnar,
questions?
I just have one more section. I think after that we'll be done with this. This
For sure.
again is two pieces of information over here. If you need, if you are physically disabled and you do need any special arrangements, you can select from this option. Feel free to do that. And if you have had any other psychological or psychiatric treatment, you can add about that. This is a statement of integrity that you need to sign off, upload your signature over here. And while submitting the application, you will be required to select your interview preference. So where do you want to appear for the interview? Is it Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai? Or if you are an international applicant, you can appear virtually, or your
Mhm.
campus preference. So you can prefer, you can say that you want to go to the Hyderabad, the Mohali campus, or otherwise go ahead with the no preference option. So this is about it on the ISB application form.
Awesome. Okay. I think I'll just start bringing up now the questions that we did not answer yet. Okay, a question here. Mentioning layoff in the COVID period as the reason for leaving the job, how is it going to affect my application?
Layoff is a very, something that has happened to a lot of people, and if it is real, so you should keep it real. Why not? It is. How is it going to affect? Now there are many reasons for having a layoff. It can be your performance, it can be the company's performance, it can be the whole industry performance. Leave that to the contextual explanation that you will probably have. That window of opportunity on the interview. If it is very important for you to give a further explanation as to why you were laid off, you can do that in that section as well.
Mm, got it. Okay. Next question is does a backlog in a semester during the graduation affect application or does it need to be mentioned somewhere in the application?
So if it is a backlog, then it might have impacted your undergraduate degree being completed on time. So we can assume that it might not have been 4 years, let's say slightly more than 4 years. In that case, we had that section in the bachelor's degree section where you had to, give that explanation for a gap. So you can use
Mhm.
that area to talk about this.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question is I'm having 13 years of work ex. Will I be able to apply for a PGP program?
Yes, Subhashish, why not? We have had people with 13 years, 17 years going into ISB, so no problem at all. Go ahead and
Gotcha.
apply.
Same person asked, is there any process to do evaluation of my profile?
Yes, so you can reach out to us. I think Selvi will share the details in some time, or you could just Google out Goal ISB and reach out to us on our website, and we'll be happy to take it up from there.
For sure. Alrighty. Next question. Does the experience letter suffice as the proof of job?
Experience letter suffice as the proof of job. This depends on, they have clearly mentioned that they want the salary slips or the IT return. So, not having the IT return as well, is that the case? I think you need to go deeper into which documentation and what part of, proof you are going to submit. Otherwise, if you just look at the application form, it just asks for your income tax return or your latest salary slip. That should be more than enough.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. How do we add Enactus as part of social service since there's no award?
You can take it to the extracurricular section. So there were two sections, awards as well as extracurriculars. If there's no award for it, then you can take it to the extracurricular section.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question's here. If one is an investor, do we add it as business or part time?
So is that something that you do full time? Then you need to add it as a business. Then you would have your own declarations with respect to the nature of the business. So I think it
Mhm.
needs something. It needs more details from you rather than this one line alone. If you can share those details, maybe I can suggest something better on this. But more or less,
Gotcha.
I do assume that if you're doing it full time, then it is a business and it is self-employed nature of work.
Gotcha. Okay. Does writing essay 3 give an advantage?
We don't know yet. It is for the first time that we have an essay 3. But since they've given you an option, and if you are applying to B school, you should be very clear of your goals. And if you are, then you should go ahead and write it. Why not?
Yeah. Awesome. And just quickly mentioning, guys, if you want a free ISB essay review, Shruti is offering one. So make sure to sign up. The link is there in the chat. I'll also bring it up here. And yeah, let's go to the next question. Also, like the video. If you're watching this and you've still not liked, please like the video. Thank you. Okay, next question. How long does a recommender have to submit a letter of recommendation?
Uh, there are times when ISP does allow the letter of recommendation to be submitted till a few days after the deadline, maybe 2 or 3 days. But it is
Mhm.
always good for you to assume that the letter of recommendation deadline is till the deadline of the application itself. So don't wait for those last minute announcements. You should assume that it is 10th of September itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question here. In the recommendation, should we add personal or official email?
Go ahead with the official email. If you face a problem when receiving that the link on the official email, then maybe you could take a workaround, that too in discussion with the adcom, but prefer the official email.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. Can we apply for multiple scholarships?
Yes, you can. You need to be sure of the eligibility criteria. You are meeting those, you can select and apply to those for sure.
Okay. Got it. Next question is, which family members' salaries constitute the family income?
So if we just go back to that section, you will be able to see it asks for your father, mother, as well as your spouse if you are married.
Mm. And are there like situations where you sort of cannot disclose or don't want to disclose for any personal reasons without them having to be deceased?
So you don't have to disclose anything out of for your family, unless you are applying for those scholarships where family income is a criteria. So if you look at
Mm,
the criteria for the scholarships, there is a criteria of having 12 lakhs or 18 lakhs of family income. There
yeah.
you need to disclose, otherwise don't apply for the scholarship. But in
Gotcha.
case it is not mandatory at all, so go ahead and
Mm,
just say that I don't want to disclose my family details, and they are okay with it.
gotcha. Someone asked, GRE and GMAT, are they both necessary or is only GMAT enough?
Only one is enough. Only one takes up such a lot of time. How can you get both the scores? But we do have people who have both the scores, and they might want to showcase that. So it is for those people. Otherwise, having one is more than enough. Just one.
Yeah. I mean, having both, my God, you must be some genius to get like an incredible score in both. Alrighty, okay. Next question. Will the recommendation link go immediately once I fill the section, or it goes after I submit the application?
No, it is up to it is with the section. So when you fill up the section, you just need to click that button where it says send the link to the recommender. It will go immediately. If you fill it up after the submit it after the application, then you are done. Your recommendation will not be complete, and the submission might also fail in case you're waiting for the last day. So it will go immediately. It usually
Gotcha,
happens like that. If there is a delay, please look at taking it up at escalating it and taking it up at other levels.
gotcha. The same person asked, what are the chances for reapplicants?
Chances for reapplicants. So you have another essay to explain how your profile is different. So that is one additional point of explanation for you. Apart from that, the chances are good. You need to have a very reasonable way of how you have worked on your application, how have you have worked on your profile, what has been the duration since you are reapplying. If you have a reasonable explanation for that, you have an equally good chance. Why not?
Makes sense. Okay. So for the person who asked the question of if one is an investor, do we add it as a business or part-time? They did mention as well that I am an equity investor and focusing on this while preparing for GMAT and applying for ISB. Hope you can guide better now.
Probably yes. If you are an equity investor, then that does show that GMAT, of course, is not your full time employment. Then being an equity investor is your full time employment. You need to see what your IT returns say. If you are investing, of course, it must be going on your return, and that duration you can say that you are an equity investor. This will go as a self employed status, from what I understand.
Gotcha. Okay. Another question here. When do we have to pay the application fees? Is it after every section is completed?
No, no. You need to pay the application fee at the end when you are submitting the application finally. When the whole process is done and you are sure that everything is okay. So there is a preview application button which I forgot to talk about. This gives you the complete outline of what you have filled in. It is a very long application, a very lengthy application. Please take a printout of all of this, check it word by word, see that you are okay with whatever you have filled, and then go ahead with the submission. So once you're done with that, you are on the final submission. That is when you pay the application fee.
Gotcha. Okay. Someone asked, how many recommendation letters are considered good enough? Is one okay?
ISP just needs one recommendation letter. There is no space for adding another one. So one
Mhm.
is perfectly fine.
Gotcha. Again, guys, quick reminder, if you want a free ISB essay review from Shruti, link in the live chat, right? So check that out quickly. And yeah, feel free to ask more questions below. I actually had a question for international applicants. How is the application process different for them?
The application process for international applicants, actually, it's not very different. You need to see, the main things that might be different will be your recommender might not you might have a recommender who's an international uh, professional. In that case, if language is a problem, only then, so you have an option of selecting in the recommendation, you have an option of selecting that you used a translator or not. So I've had
Mm,
applicants applying from Netherlands where the recommenders, they were Dutch, so they did not speak in English. So that is where all these things are important. Otherwise, more or less, the application process is the same. So you need to have your goals in place, you need to have your essays in place, and put up the same application process. In case your transcript says that your medium of education has not been English, then an IELTS or a TOEFL score is required. Apart from that, I don't think there's anything, any anomaly as such.
mm. And would the interview process still happen offline? Would they have to travel to India, or can they do it online? Is there an
It
option
will be
like that?
online. For the international applicants, the interview process is online. It is conducted through Zoom, and you can definitely choose that. If you are
Okay.
traveling to India during that period, you can choose to come and in person, and that is also in case ISB allows it. You have to have a word with them once they give you a call for
Mhm.
interview. But all these things are decided very much in advance. So choose your selection from there and get in touch with the team. Have that plan known to them. Otherwise, it's a virtual interview.
Makes sense. Okay, we have a few more questions here. If I applied for the YLP program but did not go ahead for the second round, will I be considered as a reapplicant?
No, not for PGP. You will not be a reapplicant. YLP application process is a separate process. If you're applying after that to the PGP process, you are not a reapplicant.
Gotcha. Okay. Someone asked, while getting the recommendation letter, is it better to get it from someone who has been your mentor at work or to get it from a professor at college?
It should be a professional recommendation. So definitely prefer somebody who has had visibility of your work, and the professional grounds. And taking it from a professor at college would be, the last option that I would go for,
Gotcha.
or an
Pooja
MBA
said,
program.
mm, Pooja said, thanks a lot for this session. You're welcome, Pooja. Yeah. We seem to have sort of covered most of the live questions. I mean, if there are any more, I'll bring them up here. But Shruti, is there anything extra that you'd like to mention about the application process?
The application process does take time. So my
Yeah.
recommendation is that you should not leave it towards the end. It is advisable that you start filling up the application and see how you want to put up all these sections. Please do go ahead with the preview application section. There are times when you assume that you filled in a few sections and finally you see them as blank. There might be
Mhm.
these cases. You might have to troubleshoot and check up with the school as well as to where you are going wrong. So do start it well in time so that to avoid any last minute rush. For any profile evaluations, you can always get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to help you out with that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. We've covered everything. This is super insightful for me as well. I mean, I stay in India. I see ISB pop up everywhere all the time. So yeah, this was pretty insightful for me too. So yeah, thanks a ton, Shruti. Oh, we did have one more question. I'll just bring it up quickly here. What's the approximate date of round two?
It's not for me to say yet. Wait till round one is complete. Once you have submitted that, I think ISB will announce that date a day or two around the round one deadlines. We'll wait for
Mm,
them to announce because these dates keep on changing. Just throwing in numbers just like that doesn't make sense.
yeah. And someone also asked, can I begin the application process for round two now, or do I have to wait until round one is close to begin my
No,
application?
you can do that. The same portal will remain live in case you are not pressing the submit button and you're not submitting it in round one. The same, whatever you have filled up till the 10 September deadline, will remain live for your round two application as well. You can submit it. So, on the date that you submitted, whatever round is live, your application will be considered for that particular round. It's like that.
Mm,
So, there's no new portal. You'll have to continue in the same application form. The same login will apply.
gotcha. Alrighty, well, thanks a ton, Shruti. Very insightful session once again. And yeah, have a good night.
Thank you. All the
Bye.
best, everyone. Yeah. Bye bye.
Shukriya. Bye bye.